Well, it's not just George's birthday either. February is a big month for your household because it's also the birth of Bigger Bolder Baking.
Yeah, I was like, where's she going with this?
Surprise!
Yeah, it is.
Birthdays.
Coming up on Need to Know, celebrity birthday cakes, 11 years of Bigger Bolder Baking, and tips to help you bake on a budget. That and everything else you need to know. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Need to Know. I'm Gemma Stafford, professional chef, cookbook author, and the creator of Bigger Bolder Baking. And as always, I'm here with my two lovely co-hosts, Ami Shukla, who is the culinary director here at BBB, has been working with us for many years, and Tianna Cohen, who's a professional host and an amateur baker. Welcome, ladies.
Welcome.
Special day today.
Special day. So it's no secret that I love the month of February because, you know, it's the shortest month. We just had Valentine's Day. But the most important reason is because it's my birthday month. I love February. I think that's also why maybe I've always loved Valentine's Day. It's 1 week. Exactly 1 week before my birthday. But I thought to kick things off for this month, you know, we just celebrated your birthday last month where we talked about fun birthday things. I want to talk about some celebrities who also share the month of February and talk about what they do for their birthday cake. So I have three really fun ones. So John Travolta is a February baby, and he loves to celebrate his birthday with a white frosted cake. It appears to be vanilla. That was on his Instagram.
Yeah, I was seeing that. I was like, is that just vanilla? Is it coconut? What is that?
I know we didn't go into detail, but I do feel like he strikes me as the kind of guy that's just like a classic vanilla cake, vanilla frosting, vanilla cake. I don't mean that in a bad way.
Have you ever thought of John Travolta as vanilla?
No,
No,
I guess
wouldn't
that's
say
not
that.
true. But it was such a classic cake. Because I do consider him
Classic
to me
cake for a classic guy.
because he's classic, yeah. You know, John Travolta was probably my first crush with
with Grease.
yeah, and then Saturday Night Fever. But so the next celebrity birthday is Shakira, who also goes all out for her birthday cake. She posted on her Instagram, it was a 4-layer birthday cake, and the bottom layer.
Do you mean tier?
Tier? Yes, sorry, a 4-tier cake, and the bottom tier was pictures, like screen printed pictures of her and her like friends and family, and her as like a little kid. And then the next layer was like white, fluffy, kind of looked coconutty, and then there was a gold layer that had her name, and then the top layer had more pictures. So it was like huge. It was this huge tiered cake. And then the next February birthday diva who goes all out for her birthday was Drew Barrymore on the Drew Barrymore Show. Actually hired several different cake bakers and had all these cakes made in the theme of her movies. And I found one baker, Sugar Monster, and made 3 of the cakes. One was a Planet Earth cake, so completely in the shape of Planet Earth. One was a Scream cake, which was a giant ghost face. And then the third one was an E.T. cake, which featured like Drew Barrymore as a kid. Aww. And then the bottom was covered in Reese's Pieces.
I saw that. I was like wondering, do they actually cut into the cake and eat it?
I don't know.
I always wonder, like, when you see a cake like that enormous, like what does it taste like on the inside? I always want to see the workings of it.
What's crazy to me is like it's like that show, Is It Cake?
Yeah.
You know, when it's so realistic looking, but it was her body, like making arms and
like when you see the Food Network show Cake Boss, when he's like making like these big sculptures, and you're like, yeah, but so many hands went into molding and shaping, and then you threw like this frosting in there to mix it all up, and it's like, I know it looks good, but like, is anybody eating that? Or eating it thinking like, this is the best cake I ever had? They're like, no, I'm eating a part of an alien.
Yeah.
It tastes like alien.
That's why I find that Is It Cake so crazy, you know, like eating something. I'm sure you've seen those videos where they just take the knife and they like go to cut it and it's either real or it's fake, but when it's so realistic.
I think some of them are good. Because somebody who's part of the Bold Baking Network, Liz from Sugar Geek, she does a lot of that. Like she'd make a trainer or something like that, and then she'll cut it in half. But you'll see her doing the process of it. And sometimes I think like, they're like, nice looking layers. It's covered in fondant. It does look real, but it also looks good. And then there are some times when you see other stuff and you're like, it's so manhandled and molded and shaped. And then there's like all these other things put in there. You're like, I think I'm good for the sombrero cake or whatever it is.
Yeah. I've never thought about that. Like how handled a detailed cake is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they all wash their hands and I'm sure it's all really hygienic, but I do find, having had made so many shaped cakes and hopefully will continue to because they're fun, but in the end, like just slicing into a really simple layered cake is always the most delicious experience, even if it could be really spectacular to see a sculpture that someone's made out of sugar and fondant.
Yeah.
It's, it's cool.
It is cool. It is. Often, it's kind of like your first thing is the aesthetic. You're like, this is really cool. And you're eating it. And you're like, well, it's cake and it's sweet and it has frosting. It has cake and it's also shaped like a whatever. Right. So it is cool.
But you do have to think about like what's in the cake. One year, somebody ordered a unicorn cake from me. Like it was like a unicorn head. Basically, a really simple sort of cake, but they wanted red velvet as the cake. And all I could think was that when this poor girl like cuts into her her unicorn cake, it's
red on the inside.
Yes.
It's authentic.
I didn't quite know. I tried to suggest other flavors, but they weren't having it.
I do think though, you know what? I do think if you cut into a unicorn, it might be like blue on the inside or pink.
Yeah,
a rainbow.
Right, a rainbow, like
rainbow.
A tie-dye cake. Oh, that would have been so cool.
Because if you like rainbows are like, I mean, they've got those fancy sparkly tails and they're all the multi-colors.
Now I want to make another unicorn cake.
It'd be like blue raspberry color, you know what I mean? It would just like spew out of them.
Somebody order a unicorn cake for me. I want to make that.
There's no unicorns at George's birthday. He's made that very clear.
Well, actually, that is a perfect segue because it's not just my birthday month. It's also George's birthday
birthday month.
And do you already know what you're going to do for George's birthday?
No, so so we all know, it's not a secret that I'm not the best cake decorator. One year I got Ami to make and decorate his cake. I like to keep it simple. I ask him every year, cupcakes are a really good idea, aren't they? Like, you like cupcakes. Your friends love cupcakes.
Yeah.
No, cake. So
I'm with George.
Yeah. But anyway, so I ordered, so I keep the decoration minimal and I order embellishments on Amazon.
Right.
So I got a Darth Vader happy birthday and I got some other things to stick around it. You can get little figures. Like I have to do the kind of DIY because I can't do what Ami does, which is, well, we make the cake look like Darth Vader. It's like, no, I'm going to make the cake look round-ish and then put the sign of Darth Vader on top. But then Kevin said to him,
oh no.
Yeah.
It's always Kevin.
Hey, George, because I was asking him, George, what about your birthday cake? Because I wanted to get it ready and everything. And he said, what about a cake, 2 cakes, one for the dark side and one for the light side? Is it light side, guys? Yeah, light side and dark side. Anyway, the moral of the story, 2 cakes.
Perfect.
And I thought it was going to be like one cake with 2 different designs on it.
No, 2 different cakes, designed differently. One for the light side and one for the dark side. Oh, gosh.
So Kevin was going to be making these cakes.
Yeah.
He said, he made it worse. He didn't stop there. I looked at him and I was like, Kevin.
What are you doing?
And he was like, what's up? You just make 2 cakes. Like, I mean, you're already making a cake. Double it and make 2 cakes. It was like, you need to stop. Like, stop. So now, and then I asked him again, then a few days later, what do you want for your cake? And he was like, I want a dark side and a light side cake. I was like, oh,
so what are you going to do?
Chocolate and vanilla?
2 cakes. Oh, chocolate and vanilla. 1 chocolate, 1 vanilla. But I only have the Darth Vader for 1 cake. So,
well, why don't have you made the cakes yet?
No.
Oh, well, then why don't you do like the Darth Vader cake and then like do the light side cupcakes or something?
I asked him that already. He said, no, cupcakes.
Oh, man.
So now I'm decorating. This is the thing. Now I'm just like, it's always like, I stress out about decorating this cake every year because people expect it to be good. And it's like decorating is just not great. And then the cake is good, but decorating's not. And now I have to do it twice.
I have another idea for you.
But what? It's not worse than 2 cakes.
No, it's 1 cake.
Yeah.
But then like you take like you have a few rounds but you have like half.
I see what you're doing here with your hands. And I already can say no to this.
I think she's volunteering herself to make George's cake.
You're talking about shaping. No.
It'd be just a round cake. But say like you make 1 you still have to make 2 cakes. You make like the chocolate cake and you make the vanilla cake, but then you put it together. You just do like a half layered chocolate
Mm-hmm.
cake and a half layered vanilla cake, and you put it together like a circle,
Oh,
and then you frost the whole thing, and then
No,
people
you
don't
make
know.
one giant cake and you cut it down the middle. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And you don't know if you're going to get the dark
Dark
side
side
or
or
the
the
light
light
side.
side.
Wait a second. What's on the outside if you don't know
Just-
what you're
just-
getting?
Like vanilla frosting, whatever.
Because then it's all light side.
Oh, then just or you just
Or,
do
like,
like
mix it.
half
Black,
swirly. Or no,
swirly.
or you just do or you just like, or you make the whole cake, but half of it is frosted chocolate and half of it is
Okay,
frosted
I'll think
vanilla.
about that. But can we all just agree that what Kevin did was very
wrong.
terrible
Yes, it was wrong. Kevin, if
and
you're
made my
watching
life
this-
very difficult?
Yeah, now you have to think about it.
Well, I think that, what's fair is if you're making 2 cakes, Kevin's doing all that cleanup for 2 cakes.
I don't. Yeah. Yeah.
One way or another, he's going to
Ami-
pay.
To be fair, Ami, I think just talked herself into the job. She will be here, so.
There you go. Well, it's not just George's birthday either. February is a big month for your household because it's also the birth of Bigger Bolder Baking.
Yeah, I was like, where's she going with this?
Surprise.
Yeah, it is.
Birthdays.
Bigger Bolder Baking is 11 years old. And so I have some fun accolades I want to share with the audience
lovely.
here about Bigger Bolder Baking. So you started Bigger Bolder Baking 11 years ago. In that time, you have reached 8 million fans across social media, 500 million video views, almost 1,000 videos, more than 1,500 recipes on biggerbolderbaking.com, and answered more than 1 million fan comments across social media and the website, plus 2 cookbooks. So just so much exciting things in the last 11 years. And so I thought we could talk about some of the most popular things from Bigger Bolder Baking. So I have a few here. I'll let you speak to them, but I know that probably the most popular thing is your mug meals.
Yeah.
And your mug meals have more than 100 million views in your mug cakes and mug meals videos. So talk about that. That's such a huge achievement.
Yeah, so it's been a long journey. The mug cakes came about around 5 months into, it's very specific, 5 months into starting Bigger Bolder Baking. I remember it because back 11 years ago, it was just Kevin and I. I was 11 years younger. And, it was just the two of us. There was no George. And we had left our full-time jobs to start Bigger Bolder Baking. We moved from San Francisco to LA. We rented this small house in Santa Monica. And we'd been married, I think, a year, actually, now that I think of it. That's true, too. We'd been married like a year. And we went all in on, Kevin had the idea of like making YouTube videos. And I said, okay. And we went all in on it. And around that time, we were trying to figure out the positioning of Bigger Bolder Baking and what we didn't really have an audience. So you can't be like, what does the audience want? There was no audience. So it's like, well, what do I think is the best thing to do? So it was really hard at the beginning to figure out what to do and what was right. There was very few baking channels on YouTube. I was one of, if a few, I don't even know if there were any other professional pastry chefs at that time. When we were looking around, there wasn't. There was Rosanna Pensino, there was My Cupcake Addiction, there was Cookies, Cupcakes and Cardio, and they were the big other baking channels. And then we came along. Long story short, the mug cakes came about because one fan was asking about cakes that you don't make in the oven. These are people watching from all over the world. And this made no sense to me. I remembered his comment because he commented every week, make a cake. It doesn't matter if you were like what you were making in this video. The comment below was make a cake without an oven. And, I used to take note at that time of all the recipe requests because I needed that feedback because I kind of didn't know where I was going, I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know if what I wanted to do would resonate with other people and is that what they wanted to see. So I make a cake without an oven and it came up and up and up and up. And then I used to, Kevin and I back then, I felt like we had all the time in the world. Like when you think back at that time, I think, what were we doing with all that spare time?
Yeah.
Because
you mean like before kids?
Not even before George, before we got like really busy.
Yeah.
because we were like, going on vacation. We were doing like whatever. And I think there was probably like a lot of time where we weren't doing anything, which sounds kind of nice, but it was like, wow, I just, it's funny. I think back like what we were doing back then when we didn't have that much on our plates. Anyway, and your man said, make a cake without an oven. And it dawned on me one day when I was looking over my list of recipe requests, I said, it kind of clicked with me. He's talking about microwave cakes, which I had done in Ireland, like when I was a child, or in my 20s, I'd done microwave cakes. So I said to Kevin, this is an idea that this guy has been requesting this. This is my thought about this. Back then, a cake done in the microwave had existed. Rosanna Pansino had done one, and I think another, like one or two creators. But what they did was they took literally a can of 7-Up or just, milk and eggs or whatever, and a box cake mix, and made a cake in the microwave. And that hit big. So I said to Kevin, this already exists out there. If I'm going to do it, we have to go back to our like branding and positioning, which is professional chef, from scratch, good quality ingredients, a place of authority. So I made 5 different mug cakes that were different flavors. All from scratch, good quality ingredients, just butter and eggs and cocoa powder and peanuts and jam and like whatever. And it took us around 2 days to shoot that probably 5-minute video.
Yes.
We were going to kill each other by the end of it. Because Kevin had the camera in the microwave open. I said, look, open the camera, open up the microwave, look in, put in the mug cake, take it out. And we were like, it was so much work. We were new to this. We hadn't streamlined our process. So it just took a long time. He was getting mad at me. I was getting cranky at him. And like, it was a lot. And after we shot the video, I said to him, never again am I doing another mug cake video. That's it. It hadn't even launched yet. And I was like, never again, Kevin. The two of us were like, no, we're not doing that. That's crazy. And it was popular. It was really popular. This guy came back and said, hey, the same comment. He commented on the video, make more cakes without an oven, he said to me. So I said to him, dude, what's your deal with the cakes without an oven? And he said to me, I never asked him where he was from, and I should have. But he said, I don't have an oven. Which was like the perfect answer, because like I just assumed you did. Mm-hmm. But you have people who are living all over the world who have shared kitchens, have no kitchen available. What they might have is a microwave, is a hot plate, is maybe a toaster oven. He could have been a student living in a dorm. Mm-hmm. He could have been like whatever it was. So that was really interesting. But it wasn't until I'd say like a good few weeks later, like maybe a month or 2 months or 3 months later, where that video went viral. And I mean, like really big viral back then, because it got picked up by publications that don't exist anymore, that were SF Gate and the Daily Mail and like all of these guys. And this was 11 years ago. And it catapulted us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And put us on the map. So that's where the beginning of the mug meals happened, where they started. And then I kind of became known as the mug cake lady, which is not a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like I am still to this day very proud of those recipes. We did multiple. When we started to do savory, that opened up a whole other world for us, where I started to be, I got a lot of outreach from, I was on TV a lot for it, and did some like amazing articles around the world, like featured in like Israeli magazines, and like, it was insane. Mm-hmm. It's just a funny story, like how that came to be. And it literally was because that one guy said, make a cake without an oven.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's so important too, to talk about how your positioning of Bigger Bolder Baking has always been from this place of authority. It's homemade ingredients, I think that resonates with a lot of people. And it was in this time too, before TikTok and Instagram Reels, and like I think you were kind of set up for success. I mean, in the meantime, since then you've had other recipes. Here I have homemade ice cream, more than 100 million views, breads and doughs, more than 50 million views. And then a series that I kind of want to take a deeper dive into is your basics. Uh-huh. So things like homemade butter has more than 50 million views in your Bold Baking Basics series. So I'd love to move on to in the mix here and just kind of talk about this idea of budget baking. How can you have these really great homemade recipes, but that are also affordable? So I'd love to hear from both of you just some tips on setting yourself up for budget baking.
So, often to go back to our basics, one of the reasons that they were popular is because they were accessible, but my alternative, not all the time, depending on which country you're in, but often the alternative that I gave was cheaper than going to the store and buying the certain ingredients, cream cheese, butter, the extracts that we have, condensed milk, is cheaper to make, evaporated milk, so many of those homemade basic ingredients. So depending on where you live, homemade ingredient can often be cheaper, which is great. Or it can actually just be easier to make it, not have to get into your car and go and buy condensed milk, which ends up kind of being cheaper because you have to get in your car. I will say when you are specifically budget baking, I would say just, before you head into it, I think Ami might agree with this, is just like cater your menu to your resources. You know what I mean? Like I would stay away from expensive ingredients. Like, maybe don't do a lot of chocolate recipes. Maybe don't make recipes that call for specialized extracts and spices and things like that. You might only need one time, and it might be $10 for a bottle and you're only ever going to use it twice. Maybe stay away from embellishments like edible gold and like those kinds of things. Stick to pantry staples you can buy in bulk, like your flours and your sugars and things like that. And then I would say what I often do is I'll look at what I have. If somebody asks me to make something, I just got a message today about making something for a fundraiser. And in those circumstances, like that's obviously donated, right? So I have to be careful now about what I'm going to spend on this. And it's for a lot of people. So I will cater my menu to like less expensive ingredients. And what do I have at home? And one thing, like a lot of bakers will probably, this will resonate with them, is something like based with egg whites. Ami and I, after our shoots, every single time you're here baking, we end up with a bag of egg whites. I say bag because I put them into a bag. We just have bags of egg whites lying around. But we always have, after big bulk shoots, tons of egg whites. So I will base, it could be like angel food cake, or, it could be macarons, which are labor intensive. But like, I will look to see what I have first and how I'm going to utilize that, because those hang around in my freezer and I've already paid for them. And if I can utilize them, it's eliminating waste. And it makes whatever I'm going to use that for like so much cheaper.
For sure. Ami, do you have any tips?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely say like there's certain ingredients. If I'm working within a budget, I'll try to stay away from chocolate, anything that takes a lot of dairy. Dairy ends up, butter can cost a lot. So if you're making a cake that has a lot of frosting, you can easily go through a pound or a pound and a half of butter just making the frosting. And that's expensive. Nuts can cost a lot. So if you're looking for desserts, affordable desserts, you find something that doesn't include that. And that would be something like an oil-based cake instead of a butter-based cake. There's like lovely cakes that so many people love, like zucchini cakes or carrot cakes. These kinds of ingredients are cheaper. Applesauce as a base. And then if you do want to do a chocolate dessert, try to find one that's made with cocoa powder instead of chocolate, because that tends to be a little more affordable. I also think if you do sort of a cake that just takes a little dusting of powdered sugar, something that doesn't need a lot of frosting, you're gonna end up spending so much on just all of the embellishments themselves.
Yeah.
And I'll definitely even say like go for like a little goes a long way desserts. So like a big bundt cake like a big pound cake that might take a lot of butter and eggs and dairy to make, but everybody needs just a little slice, and you really don't need to do much with it, but a little fruit or a little whipped cream.
Yeah.
Or even a cheesecake, which is, again, contrary to what I said, a lot of dairy, but you can feed 20 people on a single cheesecake. You give everybody a little bit after a meal or something. People don't really need that much of it.
I love a good cheesecake.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to mention were like an apple crisp. Always so good. Apples are often really
They
inexpensive.
are. Yeah.
There takes very little dairy. They're really simple ingredients, and it's just a lot of bang for your buck. Really, like there's just like it's so good.
Good
and
for feeding a
comforting.
crowd.
It's good for feeding a crowd.
Yeah, I
And
like the idea you mentioned about the fruit, and I one thing is just stay away from strawberries in December. Like don't put your hand up and say I'm going to make your wedding cake and it's summer fruit in December. It's not as good quality. The flavor is not there. It's more perishable generally, and it's way more expensive. So if your fruit is an expensive kind of a luxury at sometimes, you know what I mean?
right.
So just definitely be careful about using too much fruit and out of season.
Right. And also just the last point, if you see a sale but you don't need something, but you know you're going to bake a lot and you have room in your freezer, you
Yeah.
have room in your pantry, buy in bulk when you can. Flour, sugar, these basics that can last a while. Flour can go bad, so you want to be careful about how much in bulk you buy depending on how much you bake. Egg whites can go in the freezer, cream, cheese, butter, even milk can be frozen. There's a cream, depending there are things that can be frozen and kept. If you have the space and you see a sale stuck up, then you always have that.
That's a really good point. We use buttermilk, kind of rarely, but when I need it, I need it. And I know we have our own substitute, which you can make at home. And if you ever have milk that, like, if you're traveling, like if we're going to Ireland the next day, and if I have milk left over, I'll actually turn it into buttermilk and stick it in the freezer.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Isn't that a good idea?
Yeah.
But other times, and I often see this, like just to your point, if you see something on sale, I often see buttermilk on sale in the shop up the road from us. And when it's not on when it's not even on my list, I'll get it, I'll bring it home. You have to do it straight away. Otherwise, it sits in your fridge and goes bad. Put it into 1 cup measurements, because that's what I use it in usually for pancakes or soda bread, 1 or 2 cup measurements. And I label it and I pop it into the freezer, and then I always have it. Stuff like that. Get kind of crafty about it, because I mean, like what's you do save every little bit helps.
Yeah. Well, so with all these series that you have on Bigger Bolder Baking, you're starting a budget baking series.
Yes.
And I just wanted to know, like, what kind of inspired that series, and then how do you and Ami approach the recipes? Like what you're going to put in that series? What's like your process with that?
So it's a little bit of what we just talked about, where we eliminate a lot of those ingredients and things, and you have to get more creative, you have to get more crafty, don't you, Ami?
Absolutely.
So for instance, we released a budget $5 gourmet pizza. There's a few things that we have to go through. We go through the recipe. We pick the recipe first. Then we have to do the pricing of it. We break down the pricing. And sometimes the recipe that we say, like, this is the recipe. We put the pricing on it. You're like, hey, this costs $7. Like for the pizza, this is too expensive. We need to change the flour. Then we have to go back to the drawing board and whatever. But it is very carefully curating the recipe and then pricing it out and seeing are the results like what, because the part of the series is kind of like, high-end good quality, high-end gourmet results for an inexpensive price, and always cheaper than what you can buy in your your local pizzeria or whatever. So the pizza was for $5. It was a gourmet pizza. It was made with 0 flour, and it wasn't lacking in the like fancy ingredients. There was a hot honey in there that I show you how to make, soppressata, which was half of the price of the pizza. But when I got the other ingredients priced down, we could have $2.50 of soppressata. I had fresh mozzarella. It was beautiful dough. I did make it in my pizza oven, which it did happen to make it extra lovely. But it was fun. And it really makes you get crafty and creative about how you do this. And then Ami, we decided to approach the birthday cake idea, because in LA, not everywhere, but like if you go to some of our standard, the most popular bakeries, birthday cakes cost $60, $70, $80 for not a huge amount of people. So when I went to Ami and said, how can we make a cake for $5? Like she had some really good ideas.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, that was like when, with all the cakes I've made, I usually find that my biggest expense is the butter, that you just go through so much butter as if you're making multiple layers. So it was just about how do we eliminate as much butter as possible using an oil-based cake. The frosting, the 7-minute frosting, I don't think there was any dairy in that.
There wasn't, but you know what we used? Egg whites.
Egg whites, right. So again, then we can like pull from our freezer.
Yeah. From our from our bags of egg whites.
I think that's so important though, that idea of reusing or like if a recipe only calls for the egg yolk, using the egg whites, like there's so much waste.
I hate waste. I hate waste. Ami doesn't like waste. And, you know, I think it might be a cultural thing with me. Not that in my house, I grew up with a mom who was very strict on waste or anything like that. But I think just inside me, just as somebody coming from Ireland, I just feel like, you know, I've traveled quite a bit and in kitchens, you see a lot of waste and unnecessary waste. So, I don't like to see it personally. I don't like to see it professionally. And I don't want to be contributing to it. I heard a statistic like on an ad or something on TV where like every American throws $500 worth of food in the garbage every year. Wow. $500. Now that's an average. So like some people are doing way more and some people are doing less. But all I could think of was like not in my house. Yeah. Not in my house. And you do absolutely have to throw away some food. But we go through, we have days here of like leftovers. I don't cook vast amounts. If I do, and we have excess, it gets frozen into dishes, and then meals are put into the freezer. We're so careful. When we have our shoots, our big shoots, I will any excess food that like myself and the girls will like try stuff. We'll take stuff home. We'll share it with family and friends. But anything else that's like fresh and whatever, we pack it up. I'll put it in the freezer and I bring it to George's teachers. I'll take it out, refresh it, put an icing on it, dress it up, get George to put some sprinkles on or something, and bring it to the teachers. Recently, when we had the absolutely devastating fires in LA, I took them to different fire stations here in the valley. Stuff like that where I'd love to have zero waste when it comes to food. So I utilize my freezer like nobody's business. And then I just get like really crafty, just like the way Ami said.
Yeah. And also, like things like that you would think you could just throw away, like your cake trimmings, when you're evening cake layers, you've got scraps. You can put that in a Ziploc bag. And then if you've got some extra buttercream from something else, you can make cake pops. And then all of a sudden you have a whole other dessert, where like, brownie bits or something on the edges. I mean, you can use that to sprinkle onto a sundae or, there's like ways to use things. I mentioned a couple months ago, I was unmolding a bundt cake and it broke in half. And I was like, what do I do with this? Went in the freezer. And then, a little while ago, I made a trifle. It was great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know what else? If you have children, you're listening to this and you have children, kind of any age really, that those kinds of scraps, bits, are great for kids' activities. And I will say that even when I've had a dough, this is maybe when George was a little bit younger, but even when I had a dough, for whatever reason, it didn't work out, I wasn't happy with it. And I was going to throw it away because because we weren't going to bake that pizza off because it wasn't good or whatever. I would give the dough to George to roll, to cut, to pull.
Yeah, it's like Play-Doh.
Like Play-Doh.
Yeah.
And he would abuse it. And then 45 minutes later, he'd be like, see you later, and gone.
Right.
And then it would go, and then I would like put it in the compost or whatever.
Yeah.
So I will say this, it's like sometimes I think, what am I going to use this for? I have no ideas, these scraps of whatever, this little bit of dough. I don't like the way it turned out. And sometimes it does end up getting thrown away, but before I throw it away, sometimes I just put it in the fridge or put it in the freezer for a couple of days and think, let me think about it for a second. Maybe I can use it.
Yeah.
Maybe someone can play with it. Maybe something. And sometimes I can't think of anything, but instead of just quickly cleaning up the kitchen, throwing things out that I don't want, I'll let things hang around for just a little while, think about it, because something might pop in my head. Oh, I could use it for this, or I might have a little more energy. Sometimes you have a big baking project and you're tired and you don't want to think about making another thing.
Yeah. Often.
Often. So and emotionally, sometimes I just want to throw things away. Like I don't need that little bit of buttercream. I don't need that. And, if those things can last, and even in the fridge, they don't have to go in the freezer. They can last for a couple of days and you might find use for it.
I've made that mistake of throwing away buttercream, thinking it's been hanging around for too long. And you told me and cream cheese frosting, put it in the freezer. And that's what I do now.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely 6 months. If you've got a deep freezer, it'll last a year. If you've got like a regular freezer and a regular fridge, 6 months for sure. Any buttercream would last.
Well, great. Thank you both so much for sharing all that insight on just budget baking and how to be really efficient with your baking and your spending. If you have any tips for us on how you like to save and budget bake, please let us know. If you have any questions for us, please leave a comment. Right now, we're going to hear from one of our bold baking correspondents. And, since it is my birth month, we asked her to give us her thoughts on some birthday treats and her take on birthday cake.
Hi guys, it's Paul Bradford here. Now, having made a cake for a celebrity or a big event, then that's absolutely yes. That you'll see in front of me, I'm actually in the middle of making one right now. This cake's going all the way to London tomorrow, 9 hours drive, and this is for a big wedding that's happening there. Now, I've not made commissioned cakes for a long time. This is actually for a friend, so I'm classing that as a VIP. So this is the top table, and then we've got the truck in front of me there as well. So still got lots to do, but I just thought I'd pop on into this wee video. Now the cake I was going to talk about, the big one, was actually we were commissioned to make a cake for Prince Albert of Monaco, and it was for the tennis open that was happening there a few years ago now. So they flew us over to Monaco. I was actually teaching in Italy as well, so it was all very, very exciting. Did the teaching. Halfway through doing the teaching of this demonstrations that I was doing in Italy, I got a note to say that Prince Albert has asked for the cake for tonight, not for tomorrow night. So you can imagine the pressure that was put on me. I had to stop what I was doing to explain to all the students that were changing what they were watching, and they were all completely cool with it, and they got to watch me making a real cake. The pressure was unbelievable, so that was really, really exciting. So what goes into planning for a big event cake? I'm going to use this one in front of me because it's just easy, because it's here. Now, of course, the big thing is, does it fit in the car? That's one of the biggest things, the biggest things for a beginner. Make sure you can get it in the car. Can you fit it out your door to get into the car? They're the first things to do for planning. And then you've got to look at the venue. Does the venue have big doors? We've made cakes in the past, big cakes that we could get out, but when we got to the venue, the doors weren't big enough. So you've got to think about that. And then internal structure. This one here is a great idea for the internal structure. It's got to be all that weight to get down there. This is all toffee cake in here, and then how does this stay here? How does it not fall? 9 hours in the back of the car. It's got to be really, really strong for that. So my favorite cake to make for upscale events, especially big ones, is one I used to call the chocolate wrap. Now this is a big cone style cake. You carve it up, so it's a really quick cake to make, but it's got real big impact when it goes on display at the venue. So it's wrapped chocolate, it's just folds and folds and folds. You can just throw strawberries and fresh flowers on it, and people walk in, they get that impact of chocolate, smell, taste, all the senses, all in one big burst. It's definitely a winner.
And we are back with the Bold Baking Hotline, where we answer questions directly from you. Our first question is on the same idea of budget baking, and it is, are there any specific ingredients that are worth splurging on, even when trying to stick to a budget?
Yes, I would say. So I go back to chocolate because it is one of the most expensive baking ingredients. I would say your chocolate is definitely worth it. And one of my favorites is Lindt. It is, it can be $4 for 3 ounces. I think it's not even a 3.5 ounce bar. I love it. It melts really well. The quality is really good. Ghirardelli is also really good. I will say that I'm kind of, I suppose the word is kind of thrifty, but don't be afraid to be thrifty. You know what I mean? In our kind of standard, in our supermarkets here, we have Ralph's and Albertsons and what's the other one called? Bonds. And they'll often have 2 bars for $6. And even in Walgreens, they will sell cheaper chocolate. Anytime I see that kind of stuff, I grab it. White chocolate on sale, white chocolate, that's a good one actually. Lindt makes a really good white chocolate bar. And I would say things like, splurge, use good vanilla, and then also try and get good vanilla on sale. You know what I mean? It can be very expensive. You see bottles for $10, $11 for good quality, and that's not uncommon. You can see stuff for up to $20. I will tell you. So good vanilla really, since I've been working with Rodell, I will tell you that it does make a big difference to have the really good quality. One of my little tips for those of you who are TJ Maxx and Marshalls shoppers is when you're in there looking for random stuff, for something that you didn't know you needed until you see it, go to the food section. Not everything in the aisle is worth buying, but always look for things like extracts, good quality jams. They sell this sort of Whalen's Irish jams and marmalades and chutneys. They sell them at TJ Maxx, and they're really amazing from Ireland. They will sell a really high-end vanilla.
Oh, wow.
Vanilla bean paste.
I've never think to look at for food in those stores.
Just have a look. I know there can be a lot of stuff there that you would not buy. Even nut flours.
Really?
Almond flour, bags of almond flour for way cheaper. Check dates, definitely, because they're a bit notorious for that.
Yeah.
But check dates. But like, honestly, just walk down the aisle, have a quick look. Maple syrup. Can be, those kinds of things. Check those out. Maple syrup is a very expensive ingredient. I never talked about that. Maple syrup is a very expensive ingredient. I buy an organic one at Costco in a big kind of a tub, because between Shoots and George, who literally would drink maple syrup.
I mean, who wouldn't?
I mean,
I know.
so would I.
It ends up, you go through a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one. Maple syrup. You don't think about that. Yeah.
Our next question here is one that I really resonate with, because I don't know if you guys know this. I don't lean towards traditional birthday cake. For my own birthday, it's not I don't have like a favorite cake. So the question here is, what are some creative desserts I can serve instead of traditional birthday cake?
Oh, I can answer this one. I come from a family, as much as I love making cake, my family doesn't love cake. So I found for Dan, I often do some sort of a birthday pie.
Oh, pie is nice.
It's so good. And it's so good. They're not fancy. Pies are always a little humble and rustic, but they're so delicious. And sometimes we'll try to make it fancy and do like a tarte tatin or something that takes a little bit more effort. And you can do that with apples or peaches when they're in season, which can be really lovely. There are some years where my son has requested just like cookies and ice cream for his birthday. And we've done like ice cream sandwich with cookies, and no kid complains about that. And those are really portable and fun. So you can do, I think it's anything like special and sweet. What's also really kind of cake-like and very special and beautiful, but it's not a cake, is a pavlova. And you can make a gorgeous pavlova that can, be tall and beautiful. You can have multi-layers, fill it with cream and fruit. And it is, I would say, rivals any beautiful cake that you could make. And so those are some, I think some things that are fresh and light, and, where cakes can tend to be sort of sweet and heavy and sometimes a little one note.
Also, I was about to say that, two-dimensional, because you have frosting and you have cake.
Right.
So you kind of only get two things, whereas in a pie, you get the texture of the crust and the filling, and you get like whatever your fruit is, say peaches, get sweet peaches, really lovely when in season. You get a buttery crust, maybe a little bit salty, a little bit sweet. Yeah, I definitely, cake, I only like a particular cake for my birthday, and then after that, like princess cake, like you made me, then after that I'm kind of like chocolate cake, it's frosting and it's cake.
Right. Yeah. Or in the other thing would be like sundaes, ice cream sundaes. Just different flavors of sundaes. I think, adults, kids, everybody loves that. You can home make all these really fun toppings. You make it really special. You make caramel sauce, chocolate sauce, peanut butter sauce. You can have fruit on it if you like that.
Yeah.
Whipped cream, candy. It's super fun. It's a fun activity. It's a fun birthday party activity for everyone to get to build their own sundaes. And it definitely, it resonates with me a lot. Growing up on the East Coast, there's this chain of restaurants called Friendly's, where
I've never been to one.
Oh, it's like they have an entire menu of sundaes.
Yum.
And so you would get whatever food you ate, and then you would go
TGI Fridays.
And you get to flip through all pages and pages of all these different kinds of sundaes, and that was so fun. And so that always has a special place in my heart.
There is one thing that you didn't mention. and it's Tianna's birthday.
her
So
birthday.
one moment, I'm going to exit stage left
Oh,
or whatever
a
that is,
surprise?
and then come back.
Yay!
I love the surprise.
Probably should have. Happy birthday, Tianna!
Happy birthday!
Oh my gosh.
How cute!
It's the cheesecake!
It's a cheesecake and it looks like my favorite thing is in it. Is it a blueberry cheesecake?
Blueberry cheesecake. I have to say, personally, I do adore a blueberry cheesecake.
Oh.
And then when you said that you don't like cake and you love blueberries, it was kind of a no-brainer.
Oh my gosh, I have to take a picture of this. It's
That's
so
sweet.
cute.
This is actually from my cookbook, this recipe. It's one of my favorites. I've been making this cheesecake for years. It's a heavy one, you know, the one that makes you think like, oh my God.
Yeah,
That's
the best kind.
Yeah. Where you almost lose your breath.
Yeah, no fluffy light cheesecake here. Mm-mm. Yay!
Oh my gosh, it's so cute.
It's a perfect size. I like that.
Isn't that
Yeah.
nice?
Does your recipe in your book, is it that size or is it
No.
a full size?
This is a 6-inch pan,
So
and it's half the recipe.
Oh, it's half the
a
recipe.
9-inch pan is double the recipe. So the big one is really big.
But it's nice to know, like if you take that recipe and just divide it in half, you can make a little 6-inch cheesecake.
Yeah.
Which is oftentimes all you want. It's perfect.
Just an FYI, George wants some of this cake.
Oh, we can't all eat it all
Did he help?
ourselves?
He didn't help. But
Oh.
he comes up because no, I did. He didn't help because I did it without him here.
Oh.
But then I had to put it in the oven. So he walks home from school. He's like, Mom,
What is that?
Gemma, what's that smell? I was like, oh no, I forgot about that.
Aw, well, of course he can have some.
Can I have some
It's his
cheesecake?
birthday too.
And I was like, she's not going to be here until Wednesday.
It is so beautiful.
Is it a Parmesan cheesecake?
No. We'll give her a little, we'll do this really fast and then we'll take a little, then Tianna can have a slice and I should have actually had a tissue.
Wow.
The one thing is that I probably could have put a bit more butter in the, but no, it's okay. Here you go.
And so
Do
also
you want me to do you want a paper towel or do you want
I think it's okay.
something that's so perfect about this is my favorite color is lavender, which
Mm-hmm.
was why last episode when we did our Galentine's, I wanted the drink to be purple. So this is like perfect.
Isn't that sweet?
It's so beautiful.
Always you have to put in a little bit of lemon to brighten the flavor and zest. And
That's the
then
same with like blueberry muffins.
don't be scabby with the vanilla. Right?
Well, thank you all so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this super fun episode all about birthdays. If you also have a February birthday, let us know what your favorite dessert is. Make sure to like, subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can catch every episode of Need to Know on YouTube.
From HRN and the Bold Baking Network, you are watching the Need to Know Baking Entertainment podcast.